Please note that this podcast contains information regarding sensitive events, including domestic violence, assault, and abuse, as well as other triggering events, such as murder. This podcast is intended for mature audiences. When Alice jumped down the rabbit hole, she immediately regretted her decision. A rabbit hole is a metaphor for something that transports someone into a troubling, surreal state or situation. Welcome to Afterglow, the Unveiling of the Idaho Cult. This podcast will take you down the deepest of rabbit holes as it unfolds. The story is so compelling, so bizarre, and so heinous, it's impossible to look the other way. Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow were dedicated in the most horrible way to an ideology that should only be fiction. Instead, their ideology put them behind bars. Join us as we explore the lives, lies, and diabolical crimes of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. I'm your host, Kathy Brooks. Please follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Hello, and welcome to Afterglow, Unveiling the Idaho Cult, Season 4, Episode 2, The Many Faces of Melanie Gibb. Today, I am going to play an interview with Melanie Gibb at the Chandler Police Department that took place soon after Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing. This interview, Melanie was brought in to the Chandler Police Department to discuss the shooting murder of Charles Vallow. It's really interesting when you know everything we know and all the testimony she's given, and still playing a little like she didn't believe their shenanigans, or she wasn't invested, or she didn't believe it, or she wasn't sure. Truly, the many faces of Melanie Gibb. Now today, when I play this, I'm only going to play half because it's very long. It's almost, I think it's almost 2 hours long. So I'm going to go ahead and stop talking. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. If you don't know this series, go back and listen from the beginning, because this is the best series that gives you the chronological events from the beginning of Lori Vallow's time. And with Lori Vallow going to trial in March, supposedly, that's the plan, of 2025, and Lori going to represent herself pro se. Lori's going to be Lori's lawyer. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So for now, let's catch up. I am back. I took a little hiatus, like you know, too many things going on. I'm really trying to stay on top of the podcast, and I appreciate you being here. And again, I'm a one-woman show. My name is Kathy Brooks. I am not a professional podcaster. I am a nurse, a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 2, and my mother with dementia's caregiver. So bear with me. I appreciate you. If you'd like to help support the show, there is a link below where you can send a little donation. No donation is too small to help me continue to provide you with this show. Thank you. Now let's get on with Melanie Gibb or whatever her name is, The Many Faces of Melanie Gibb, Afterglow Season 4, Episode 2. I'm Kathy Brooks. Here we go.
I know, right? I would have never. Melanie, this is Dan Coons. He's on our team here. You want to sit somewhere else over there, Dan? Or you can sit right here.
Okay. Would you prefer if I wear a mask?
I thought I was going to ask you, do you want...
I don't like to wear them. They make me feel sick.
Okay.
So,
well, if you don't mind, I'm not COVID positive, so...
I'm not anything. I'm a health nut, so...
I promise I'm not going to interrupt too much, but I just wanted to point out that she came in, she had a mask in her hand. This was during COVID, peak of COVID, pretty much. So she asked if she needed to wear a mask, and they were like, I'm not COVID positive. And surprisingly, in Arizona, they weren't really wearing masks in Arizona, unlike where I live in California, where everybody had to wear a mask or you were basically blacklisted. So it's very different culture in Arizona versus California when it came to that. But they are not wearing masks. Melanie sits down across the table from the one detective and the other one. They're both there. They're both interviewing her together. So I didn't catch both of the detectives' names, and maybe I missed it, but the document that this was written on about this conversation from the detective starts out with interview with Melanie on 8/19/2020 at 1500 hours, so 3 p.m. Detective D. Coons and I interviewed Melanie Gibb at the Chandler Police Department. This interview was geared mostly towards blank, assisting us with a timeline of events and to also question her regarding communication between her and Lori Vallow. In addition, we wanted to understand her knowledge of the religious beliefs that Chad Daybell and Lori professed. So then he just goes on and documents what they talked about, but you're going to listen to it here.
Yeah, I love the puppy. Just before we start, I've had so much experience talking to people like you. I have great respect. I will have great respect for the police. They're the ones that help me most with all this.
Thank you.
And so make sure you tell me you're recording you. Because, you know, some...
It's right up there. Yep.
So, okay, just then make sure you tell me because, you know, people will make sure that I know that and that you know that and you know what I mean.
Yep.
I've been through the grill. I've been through the grill, so...
This is going to be very informal.
Okay.
And most of it is to, like, I know you've been interviewed 100 times by all different types of people.
Just a few.
Just a few. So
Not more than one.
So I haven't listened to the interviews you've done with Ryan Pillar or with Detective Moffat. I think was there at the same time, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Was he like a Gilbert Police or was he a Chandler?
He was the Chandler Police. So he was the case officer in this case, and he recently was promoted. So lucky us. Lucky us.
I'm sorry that you have to get involved because I know it's a lot of work.
It is.
We've been involved from day one.
Yeah. Well, of course you have. Yeah, I'm so sorry. And I've been involved too, so.
Yes.
Our whole lives have changed. Mine's life changed a little bit differently than yours.
I bet. I mean, you go around and have to answer questions every day?
No.
Okay, good.
No, people, a lot of people don't know and recognize me.
Okay, good.
You know, because people, I mean, you think about how many people are on the planet and how many people are in Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
People in Idaho recognize me more when I was up there.
I bet.
Yeah.
How long were you up there?
How long did I end up staying? I think
because you were planning for 2 weeks, right?
I was planning for 2 weeks. I left earlier. I think a week.
Okay.
Maybe somewhere around the week.
Okay.
But I got to go to Mesa Falls while I was there. And
very nice.
She's referring to when she was up in Idaho for Chad's preliminary hearing. That's what she's talking about right now.
Nice.
Yeah, it was something else, man.
Yeah, I was on the standby list to go up there, but then I guess they waived my appearance. So.
Well, be glad.
I know, right?
It's nothing like getting on the seat and the whole world's watching you on video.
Well, that's got to be. It is. It is a little. It's a little stressful. But I always tell people, I'm like, you're testifying to the truth. You know,
Exactly.
You're testifying to the truth.
Exactly.
So go ahead and ask whatever questions you want.
Well, that's what I was like. I was like, well, if you want me to tell the truth, here it comes, and I'm not going to back away.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let it make me crumble or fall because I'm telling the truth. And so you have to be confident with that.
Absolutely.
And if you're okay with the world hearing your truth, then you just got to spill beans.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just have mostly what I have, and Dan's got some other stuff. Dan kind of went on some different tangents with some most of the Gilbert reports and body-worn camera, that type of thing. Most of what I'm trying to do is come up with a timeline or a better understanding of timeline, and hoping that you can answer some of these questions.
Okay.
So the best of my knowledge is October of 2018. Is that correct?
That's
when Lori,
when I met her.
when you and Lori met?
That's right.
Okay. Is that also when Lori and Chad met?
They met weeks after it. So I met her by herself first.
Okay.
And then I had known him already, but not super involved in knowing him, if that makes sense. Just kind of a casual knowledge of him. And anyway.
Okay. So you met, do you remember the date or anything?
Which, for what?
When you met Lori?
It was like on the 3rd or 4th. I was teaching. Where did my first go? I was teaching at an event at a church in Mesa.
Okay.
And so I think it was the first week. It was like a Tuesday or Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might have that on my phone.
And you guys, my understanding is through my investigation is you met through Jason Mao.
He's the one that met her first at the temple, and then he told her.
Hey, you might like this girl.
Okay. Yep, it's the 4th.
4th of October?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Well, I talked to her on the phone right before then, so but physically we met. Yeah, I keep forgetting that part, but we physically met. That's why I remember it the most, is when we physically met. And so he just said like-minded people. And then she called me and said, I said, well, I'm going to teach if you want to meet me. And anyway, we met at the church. And so.
And where was that at? You remember?
McKellips and Stately. I have it written down. That's how I remember now.
I love it.
Yeah. And I spoke to a stake there about preparedness, self-reliant stuff.
Very good.
Yeah.
So October, so a couple weeks later, how did Lori meet Chad?
So,
was that at another event?
Yeah, so that was at, let me see if this is the day. 19. Yeah, it was the 20th. I probably said to somebody, but I don't know, 26, let's see if that's it. Yep, okay. The weekend of the 26th.
And the 26th of October.
So is that what, 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later? 1, 2, 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later, so we go to the event and preparing people in St. George, Utah. And we go up, there's 6 of us in the car, five of us, I remember it was, I guess, 3 in the back, 2 in the front.
Okay.
And we drove up there as some friends, and they didn't know Lori that well, but anyway, they were friends of mine.
Okay.
And I didn't know all of them. There was one girl I didn't know very well, but anyway, we just thought we'd take a trip up there. And so as we got there, she quickly got introduced. I don't know if I introduced her or they walked up to each other. I can't even remember at this point. Okay. But I just know that she knew who he was because of his books.
And that was a Preparing a People event?
That was a Preparing a People event, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they just started chatting and everything you've heard is.
Was a speech given to by Chad at that event?
He was one of the speakers.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What other speakers were there?
Jason was there, and Hector.
So it appears she's starting to mention Hector. And Hector kind of has a big role in all this belief system behind the scenes. He kind of went dark when it all started happening. But for whatever reason, they redacted his name and part of the conversation when he's talking about Hector. So I will just skip forward to where they stop redacting.
Audio for you.
Okay.
And just let me know if this sounds familiar to you.
Okay.
And whether or not you were there.
Well, they all sound the same. So if hopefully it goes that weekend, I'd say yes.
For that wonderful message. I hadn't had to until yesterday. To follow some of this podcast.
Okay, so that's Chad.
Amazing man.
So that was in November because he talked about Thor, and Thor wasn't at the St. George. That was here in Mesa.
That was Mesa in November?
Yeah, because I was the only one Thor spoke at.
Did you know what day that was?
Yep. Thankfully, these things belong to information. So that's October, November, was the 16th. So, yeah, okay, so it was the weekend of the 16th of November, 2018.
And that was in Mesa?
Yep.
Another Preparing a People?
Yep, same company.
Was that at one of the podcasts you were doing or at a different event?
This was not a podcast, this was an event. Okay. Totally different, yeah.
So just for my reference and for recording, what I just played for you would have been, I just labeled it Chad meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the one I just listened to was the second time Chad and Lori met.
Okay.
That was our second time to physically see each other. That I know of. I mean, if they saw
That you're aware of.
That I'm aware of.
That's all we would be asking you to
Yeah,
tell us.
that I'm aware of. What they get on their personal all the time, I don't know.
All right, so let me go back to this. So I've got Melanie listed, your phone number, obviously the number that I've been calling you at, the 6340.
Yeah.
How long have you had that number? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
5, 6.
Okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you met Lori.
Oh, yeah.
You have the number, okay. She has that number in one of her accounts as Melanie.
Yeah.
And in another account, she has it as Phoebe.
Yes.
Is
That doesn't
something that you're
surprise me.
aware of?
Well, it doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
She had different names she'd like to call me because she got to the point, I think, where she just got more secretive with her life.
Okay.
You know, so.
That was aware, a name you were aware that she would
Yeah,
refer
she
to
referred
as.
this.
Any reason why?
Yeah. So you know how Chad would tell her who her lives were?
Okay.
And so in one of her lives, she had a whole bunch of children, and one of those was Phoebe. And so she said, that was me.
Okay.
Does
So
that make
you
sense?
happen to be one of her children in a previous life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe that, just for the record. Okay. Just to get that out there.
Yeah. All right, one more record, and I have two more actually. So here's another recording. Tell me if you recognize this one.
It's Lori.
I feel like
Oh, yeah.
I love Melanie.
So that was in my house,
I thought
Okay.
that we were.
and there was friends there. So yeah, that's Lori's
Do you know when this was?
Who the father wanted me to go to.
So it was shortly after I met her, and I usually have Friday classes.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly the date because I'd have to go research a lot of emails to figure out when I had that. But that was before she met Chad. I believe that, at least I believe that recording.
So would it be safe to say if they met in October, so I can just, it would be October of 2018?
I have recordings on my phone of that one, but she did a couple, so let me just check them.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Lori, Melanie, so I have 2 dates. It might have been October 19th. Wait, is that before? Yeah, that was before preparing people.
Yeah, it was 26.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're gonna be helpful for me. It could have been, I have it written down as the 19th, and I also have the 12th. So anyway, I think it's the 12th or the 19th.
Okay. Let me see if I can.
And you probably have both of those. I gave them to Elder. Officer.
Taylor, he'll be happy you called him Elder.
Sorry.
Through that, he instructed
Let me see, I'm trying to find it.
horrible things about me and turned it around to where the judges believed him instead of me. And he was constantly trying to get custody of my 3-year-old daughter and
So you guys got all that, which is great.
shove it in my face. And I went through a lot of years of this kind of hard stuff. And I was going to murder him. I was going to kill him. Like the scriptures say, like, if I killed him, just to stop the pain and to stop him coming after me and to stop him coming after my children. And I just thought I couldn't take it anymore. And I would go through the scriptures and find all the things, like, if he comes against you once, if he comes against you twice, if he comes against you 3 times, then you can kill him. It says it in the scriptures.
That's good stuff.
Does that, do you recognize the script? Were you there when this was said?
Yeah.
Okay, so you recall her saying that?
Oh, yeah.
Now, she refers to the scriptures and saying that. Do you know what scripture she's...
I would think Doctrine and Covenants, section 90, is it 98, where he talks about when Joseph Smith is talking about those parts where if people hurt you in the family, then you forgive them, and then you get to a point where after so many times, I think that's what she's referring
Let me see
to.
if she had something else here.
I
Here
can't.
it is. There's my answer. I don't want to do anything that's wrong. I did not have a murderous heart. I just wanted to stop the bleeding and stop the pain. And so someone wise was speaking to me and said, you need to go to the temple. So I went and met my bishop, and I was like, I'm either going to turn my life to the temple or I'm going to commit murder. So do you want to give me a temple recommend?
Wow.
And I was perfectly honest because at that point I had nothing to lose. You get to the bottom rung and I had nothing to lose. And he gave me my temple recommend. And I started going to the temple.
So that would have been, we're thinking October 19th of 2000.
I think that was that one.
Okay, so that was before, it was still, we're safe to say it's October.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you know who her bishop would have been at that time?
So she was living in that first house I met her, which is the very large house. I know what it looks like. I do not know the name of her bishop. And they moved a lot, so, you know, whenever she's referring to that, probably was when she lived in Hawaii or Texas or who knows.
Oh. Okay.
So it wouldn't have been a current one. Because she's talking about the past, because she had already been divorced, or no, yeah, she divorced Joe and already was with Charles by this point, so we're talking years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next question to you, kind of help me out here. It looks like July 9th.
Okay.
So 2 days before Charles was killed. Do you remember being at Lori's house?
I don't remember the day, but I remember I would spend the night because I was divorcing my husband, and so I was, you know, she was like, you know, you should probably not stay at home all the time, that kind of talk.
Okay.
I said, well, sure, I'd be happy to spend the night, or whatever. And so I was at her house. I get up that morning, and she goes, you gotta leave. I'm like, why? She goes, Charles is coming down. He's gonna try to kill me. And I'm like, and she was like a storm all the time, and I was calm.
Sure.
I'm a very calm person. I was like, oh, well, why? What reason does he have? I don't understand. So she explained to me that her brother was flying into town, which, you know, I know that I've heard, you know, you meet a lot of people on the journey. So anyway, that he did come into town, Adam, and then Zach, her nephew, and her dad. They were all after her, so that had been 4 people. And Brandon Boudreaux, right? So that would have been 5 people. Count right?
They were after her?
That's what she said. They were all after her. They were coming to get her. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, I have $3 million of insurance that Charles changed on the, you know, the documentation because he was an insurance guy. Anyway, and she said they wanted the money for that. So they wanted to kill her and get the money because they were evil and they were dark and they were all these, you know, things. They were all zombies by this point. So that was her reason. So anyway, I left and I got a call. I think it was 4 days later. It felt like it was to tell me what happened. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the text messages between you guys? Because I know there was one, and I'm trying to look for it now.
Yeah.
I'm just going off the top of my head. I know you said something like, I'm here in front of your house.
Yeah, and I couldn't. She was, man, sometimes when I go there, she didn't hear me, so I'd like figure out where she was, go around the back.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I could have definitely said that. That sounds like something I would have texted.
Let me see if I can just find this.
And I don't know when that was. So I know I didn't see her until she called me, or I called her. I think she called me. I can't recall, but anyway, I came after she told me, like, what, 4 or 5 something days later, I came to visit her at that house when he was shot in.
Tell me about that. What happened then?
So when I went over there, well, she first of all asked me about, like, the news, like if I had watched the news, and so I said, no, I haven't watched the news. And so she told me, she said, well, he was coming, he was plotting, you know, to kill me. And then she said, and I said, well, how did he die? And she says, well, he came into, so I got to remember details. It's been foggy, sorry. So if I don't say as clear as I did last time, it's because I'm trying to forget all this.
Right.
It's hard for me to recall it all the time, honestly. But anyway, so she says, I remember her saying things like this. I'll just be all over the place, but these are the things I remember. I think JJ they were buckling him in the car, something like that. And his phone was like in the middle between the 2 car seats, she said.
Okay.
And I can't recall where he was at the time, but she said that she was out there with JJ in the car, and then she said she always referred to her certain spirit people that she talked to. So she says this one spirit person, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce it now, but anyway, it's out there. She said, she told me to pick up the phone, to get the phone. So she said, she grabbed Charles's phone, went into the house, and he freaked out on her, was saying things like, you give me my phone back? And she said, and probably Alex said too, I don't know, between the 2 of them. But anyway, yeah, she said that he started, you know, yelling at her, give me my phone back. Now he started getting enraged. I think it's what she told the police, the police department too. Tylee comes out with a bat and is saying, you know, I don't know, they're fighting. And she says that he's threatening her for her life, threatens to kill her, something like that. And they're fighting, then Alex and him get in a fight. And then he goes to his bedroom, felt a prompting, I think, if I remember correctly, to get his gun and out of self-defense. I remember at one point, he said that Charles was on top of him and it's like he had 1,000 demons in him. That's what he said. And then
That's what Alex said?
yeah.
Okay.
And then, sorry, I'm going between what she said and he said, so I don't know if she said that. Anyway, sorry. And so, anyway, so Charles came, he tried to push Charles off him at one point, if I remember correctly, and said he was really strong, something like that. And then, I think that's when he got the gun, I'm not sure. But anyway, then he shot him. Yeah, something, so anyway, lots of arguing, lots of threatening.
Did you recall her saying that she got the phone from the car?
So she got the phone from the car, that's what she told me. The interesting thing, I said to her, I was like, so did you look on the phone? Like, is he, you know, what did you find? And like, how did you know how to open it? And she's like, well, I asked my angels and they told me the code. It was like 1,000. And so I opened it up and I said, so was he really cheating on you? Like all the things you said, oh yeah, there were all these pictures of girls and all these things on it. So she was trying to verify her story about him cheating on her. And then, you know, him being this bad person, she tried to make him to be. So she was trying to build that case. Now, I look back now, that's what she was trying to do. I didn't know that at the time.
And this would have been 4 days after when you came over to the house.
Mm-hmm.
When you went over there on the 9th, and I'm just going to say the 9th because it looks like your phone, that's when you said, hey, I'm here.
Okay.
And she made a comment that says, I'm out back on an important call.
Okay.
Do you remember maybe that text? Or did you go out back and see her? Was
Probably.
she frantic that night?
Oh,
Was
no.
she?
No. So I'm trying to remember, was it the evening?
Yes.
Was this before the death?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was the night you said. No, she wasn't frantic. Let me try to recall. Oh, sorry, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard too. Sometimes it's just hard to, anyway. I remember, and I can't remember if it's this night. This is why, because I know I spent the night more than once. This is why I got to remember the night. I hope maybe I'm remembering this correctly. I remember she's just like, just so dark. I'm just so upset. Satan's really attacking me. I just have, you know, she's talking about her like getting a headache or not feeling well to the point of really bad. And so she just talked about how bad she felt. And she was probably talking to Chad, as my guess. She was always talking to him on the phone. So I didn't always ask her because she was just, and she'd go off in her own little land, and I kind of separate myself at times from her, so I didn't always pay attention. I didn't pay attention to a lot of stuff because she was kind of a little bit drama. So she was like in a whirlwind, and I was kind of outside that whirlwind.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Sure. That's the best way I can describe me and her, because she's got the whirlwind, and I'm like, I'm not a drama queen. I don't really get your energy, but okay, you know what I mean? So that's what I remember. Yeah.
Well, let me back up to January. So obviously it looks like from what we can tell is in January, around the January 30th, was an argument between her and Charles.
Oh, is that what it
and
was?
then that's when she was going to leave.
Okay, that was January 30th.
January 30th. So it looks like on the 31st is when, that's when I think you might have went with her to Gilbert PD.
Okay.
Or January 30th.
Okay.
The 31st, they were at Gilbert PD.
You went to Gilbert PD.
Yeah.
And that's when they told her about the mental health evaluation.
That's right.
And then she agreed to go.
That's right.
To over there to be seen on that.
Yeah.
From that point on, do you know where she went?
Let me back up just a minute because this is important.
Yeah.
When she was in there, that police station that day, and she was talking to whoever that officer was, she was telling him the things that I'm sure she thought were important, which was, you know, he's cheating on me. This is a domestic, dispute. She said she knew how to handle the police, so she just knew that they would get involved at a certain point and wouldn't care about certain things, you know. Anyway, I was listening. probably have that conversation later. But anyway, she's talking to them and she's telling them all about him, committing adultery or whatever, cheating on her in California, something about some women, I don't know. So I said to her, he says to her, well, do you have proof that he's cheating on you? And she said, yeah. And so he didn't ask her to provide the information.
Yeah.
I later said to her, I was like, do you have that information? She's like, no.
Okay.
So I thought, okay. Yeah.
Why do you think she was doing that? I mean,
Which
if you
part?
had to guess, like
To
accusing him of.
She was trying to, to me, because of this idea she had that Charles was this Ned Schneider, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That she was going to do everything she could to paint a picture that he was bad, but nobody would probably believe that he was Ned Schneider. So
Okay.
my guess is she's trying to look like he's really a bad person. That's what I'm seeing, is like she's creating this monster to make him look like a monster, which he absolutely wasn't.
Okay.
And so she's trying to make it legitimate, I think. Looking back, she's trying to make it legitimate, look like he was just a bad person.
Okay.
So they should have a reason to leave him or whatever she was going to do, which, holy cow, who knows what she was getting into.
Right.
But anyway, does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to be as
So
accurate as
back to
possible.
that Ned Schneider. When was the first time you heard the Ned Schneider?
So it was in January sometime.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was on the phone with Chad.
Okay.
And I was in her house. And I remember even just like where she was when she told me, how you remember the spots. I remember she was like in her back door coming in now.
Okay.
She went out and talked to him probably outside, and I wasn't listening to that. But then she came back in, and I knew she was talking to him. And so she was kind of going back and forth. And then she got the phone and told me about him and told me what Chad said, which was he became this Ned Schneider person. That was in January before the 31st, because I know by then he
Okay.
already knew.
Yeah.
Right, which amazed that she told him that. It's crazy.
So I wanted to interrupt just because sometimes this stuff gets a little dry, but listening to them, there's a lot of really important information being said. But I wanted to tell you that Melanie Gibb's book, Feel the Fire by Melanie Gibb, is on selling for used, her paperback on Amazon for $58.23. So Melanie Gibb, is she making money off that still? Her book, Feel the Fire? That's crazy that it's $58 because it's probably a wanted thing just because of all the notoriety of this, the infamy of this. Crazy, right? $58 for her book? What? Oh my God. Goodness gracious. Okay, back to the show.
Any other names
Yeah.
that she referred to Charles by?
Yeah.
And what was
So
it?
the first one was Ned, and then the second was Garrett.
Okay.
Garrett, something like that.
Okay.
I believe the third one was Eblos, which Eblos was different because Eblos was supposed to be a combination of evil spirits. So it was just like a dark spirits together. That third host
Sure.
that never came, that was like that group.
But that, we call it Hiplos or Hiplos.
Yeah, because that's how it looks like it's
Yeah.
spelled.
Eblos, that's how she would say it, Eblos.
Hiplos?
Yeah.
Okay, but that is spelled Hiplos.
Yes, yes.
But that was a specific name. You knew that to be a specific name in referring to Charles.
Yes.
Okay. Was that name ever used to refer to anybody else?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And then so we have Ned, Garrett, and Eblos.
Did she give context as to why those names for Charles?
So, Chad would be the one that gave the context to her. She wasn't the one that would come up with stuff like this. So Ned Schneider, as I probably said on the air, you probably heard it, is Chad had this, he said that it's some childhood friend that Charles had, and that he died, and then he came back as he didn't ever leave. He was an unclean spirit that got trapped on the earth, and he was now attached to him for years, and he'd been studying him, right? And his behaviors and stuff like that. That's what Chad came up with. And so then he pushed his spirit out of the body and took over. That's what he said.
Push Charles' spirit.
Yeah, so his spirit's now moved on. So if she totally believed it, I'm not sure, but I would guess at least most of her believed it. And so she believed that Charles was gone. He was already gone. So she was treating him like he was Ned Schneider.
Okay.
At least that's what I got an impression. I don't know. I mean, my guess is how much did she believe it? Like I said on TV, if Chad's Satan, he's a good one. So there was some doubt, right? There was some little doubt. Wish everybody doubted it.
Did you catch that? We've heard this before, but she says that Lori said, well, if Chad's Satan, he's a good one. So obviously, this conversation has come up where there's been some skepticism between them, or a conversation about, is Chad the real deal? And if Lori's saying, if Chad's Satan, he's a good one, does she mean he's a good Satan? Or does she mean he's doing a really good job of faking everybody as Satan as a normal person? Question. Food for thought there. I don't know how that was meant. I'm thinking it was meant more like Lori saying, well, if he's Satan, he's a good one because he's got everybody fooled. Maybe.
But anyway.
So with that being said, what we talked about, dark spirits, light spirits,
Translated beings.
There's scores, there's...
I don't know that word.
That makes score for like a 4 dark, light dark, so levels.
Yeah, I know all about the levels,
Is that something that Chad believes in? Is that something that...
No, he's the one that frameworked. He frameworked it all. And so when he met her, he had this whole thing drawn out on paper. And she would just draw it to people. She'd make people like, oh, you got to see, this is so cool. And she would draw the whole thing on paper. So she'd go, okay, this is the line. And she took great joy in sharing this. 4.1 means that you made a covenant before you came here. It's your third life. You finally made a covenant, light or dark. So you've been on the earth one time is your first time. No, pre-mortals, first time. Second time's, 2.0 would be your first time on earth. Okay. Then the next time would be, this has been a while since I've thought about this, 3.1? I can't, you gotta remember better than me. I don't remember. I better lay that out. Anyway, that would be the next time. People still hadn't decided if they were light or dark by that point, according to Chad's theories. So when you died again, because you've come back now the third time, that third time now you made a covenant. No, that was the 4.1. Sorry. Yeah, the third time would be 4.1, and that would mean that you made you either made a contract with Satan or Jesus. Okay. And then you were either that was a light contract or a dark contract. And that's when the numbers started 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, then 5, then up to 9 or whatever, or 8 or something like that.
So would those be different than a trust scale? Like, have you ever heard a trust? Like,
I can guess.
Like a trust? Like
that would be different.
Okay.
Yes, this is why police like to talk about figuring out what these recorded or these texts mean, because they're not going to tell you. So trust was different. So 4.1 just meant how many times. Okay, the numbers meant how many times you've been on Earth. Okay. The L or the D means if you signed a contract with Satan or Jesus Christ. So if it's light, you sign one with him and you're good. You could switch over and go dark though, according to them. Right?
Sure.
So anyway, that's that. Could you regress?
Could you? Yeah.
You can always go back.
From light to dark to the light.
Yeah. Okay. That was very hard, they said, but yes, you could.
Okay. Possible.
Anyway.
There's hope for you.
There's hope.
Maybe.
There's hope for us. And so then they had these different scales. They would come up later. So everything evolved later. So nothing was all in the beginning. It was like little by little, like the rope got tighter and tighter as more knowledge. Well, I say fake knowledge, whatever you want to call it. The lies got bigger and darker as time went on. But in the beginning, nobody knew about these things, and the zombie word didn't come till later. And you probably know on text when they started using the Z word. I don't remember when they did, but it came shortly, sometime after. So yeah, there was this trust thing, and then they had a scale of 0 to 100% how much you could trust people. Okay. I was supposed to be like 97%. They were always building me up, telling me how wonderful I was. Right, and so anyway, she would sometimes share like, oh, this person or that person is not trustworthy, it's this person, and that was their little game. Anyway, so yeah, there was different characteristics, but that was one of them, it's trustworthy.
How about, maybe you know or don't know, vibrations?
So vibrations, yes, I'm aware of that too. So according to how he would check, he used that little pendulum thing a lot. I didn't know that in the beginning, but anyway. And 1,000 was supposed to mean, if you got to 1,000, that or you're beginning your translation. Anyway, that's a lie. Anyway, so 1,000, and then as you...
So I have to tell you a little story here. When I first started my channel in January of 2020, I believe, is when I started following this case. It's right when it hit the news. And people started sending me emails, and I should go through them sometime and read them on here because they are incredible. People that knew Melanie Gibb, people that knew Lori, people that knew about the zombie stuff, people that had conversations about the zombie with Melanie Gibb. I mean, it was crazy. But one woman wanted to talk to me on the phone, and she is a friend of Melanie Gibb, and she told me that when her and Melanie Gibb and her husband, I don't know, there were a bunch of people. They were at a funeral, I guess, or at some kind of a get-together. But I'm pretty sure she said they were at a funeral. And when they were sitting there, Melanie was sitting by her when they were eating or something like that. And Melanie began to tell this woman that she's becoming translated. And she was like, I am becoming translated. And this woman told me she was kind of like, okay, kind of busy talking to other people, didn't really engage with that whole thing that Melanie was telling her. But Melanie grabbed her and she's like, feel my forehead, feel how hot I am. I am getting hot. I am translated. I'm becoming translated. I'm translating to become this translated being.
Something like that. And so the more you went to the temple, your vibration would increase. So it's just like your light would increase, your vibration, that kind of idea.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So you mentioned zombies.
Yeah.
Was that ever a term that you were exposed to by them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell me more about the zombies.
So Ned was first this dark, unclean spirit that took over his body, so he was just referred to as Ned in the beginning.
Okay.
But then, I don't remember when, but at some point they're just called zombies.
Okay.
And so then they had these ideas about zombies. She said she had a dream once that an earthquake happened in Utah. And so people that fell on the earth, if they were able to get rid of all the zombies in the world, then those zombies wouldn't get into those dead bodies and come back, kind of idea. And so what she talked to her, what I saw her do, she would just do like a priesthood thing, where she had the priesthood power. She thought she had the patriarchal priesthood.
Okay.
Chad always told her she had all these powers. Anyway, and she would say, I remember one time she took a map and she's like, okay, here's the United States. We're going to do a prayer. Let's find out how many zombies are in Arizona. Okay, there's 20,000, whatever, or 10. I don't even remember the numbers. It was so out there. And then she'd say a little prayer, whatever words she'd come up with that she thought were powerful. And then he would check, oh, somebody died. Look, you can go find out obituaries. Well, he'd say that later to David, but anyway. So then that was her way. In my opinion, what I saw, at least, was just through a prayer that these people would pass away.
And so
Does that make sense?
the people are actually living beings.
Yeah, so there would be everybody, let's say this police station, they're all alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's say they would check and they say, oh, there's 10 zombies in the building, right? They'd say something like that. And then they'd do a prayer. And then they would say, oh, according to his little pendulum or whatever, oh, it looks like out of the 20,000 that were in Arizona, yesterday we found out there was 10,000 people that died, or there's only 500 left. You come up with something.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And so they actually suffered a physical death?
Yeah.
So
they
we would,
die.
in that example, the 10 people here at the police
so those
department,
people will be dead in the morning.
10 people would be dead in the morning.
Yeah, just by their prayer.
Okay.
But there was no evidence, so nobody really knew that was true. Because everybody dies every day. There was no way to
know if that was
no, it was
contributing.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But yeah, that was his explanation of, oh yeah, this is how many. Then now they got to the point where all the zombies were wiped off. So according to their prayers. But they had no evidence of seeing it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you had a question about the truck, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So about Chad's truck, or not Chad's, Charles's truck at the airport?
I heard that it was at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
She told me that Alex drove it to the airport.
This would have been in January when...
Yeah, when he flew out of town.
When he flew out of town.
He went out of town,
Right.
and then he went to the airport, dropped his truck off, she said he always dropped it off.
Yes.
And then Alex came to get it, and then they put it somewhere. I think, okay, we'll go back to that, because you're talking about where different places she could go, yeah.
So Alex recovered it,
Yes.
and is that where you guys put his clothes to, Charles's clothes?
No, so let me try to remember the best. This is a little, I don't remember all the details because they were crazy and rushy, but at some point, let's see, I went over to her house and I saw her box up his clothes. So she had a box that she put his clothes in. She put one in the storage, like back behind food storage.
Okay.
And then she took another one to DI or Goodwill, and she dropped it off at Goodwill. And I was like, isn't that a bit, like, isn't this kind of overboard what you're doing? No, I was told I got to do this. You know, Jesus told me this is what I got to do. So anyway, and so his clothes were not in the truck. I mean, that's the only thing I saw is the box and behind there, and then the box that went there. And she might have done other things, but I don't remember what she did. I know she was going through some paperwork up in the office, looking for passports and, you know, important documents and something about a computer, but I can't remember what she kept her doing.
Charles's computer?
Yeah, I don't remember what she did with it. Did she take it? I don't remember if she took it, but I remember something about a computer, Charles's computer, and about money being transferred and things like that. And at some point, she wanted me to follow her. She was going to put the truck somewhere else. I'm trying to remember the details of this. So she drives it to a hotel in Gilbert, and she just parks it there. I don't think she was staying there. I don't think so.
She had said that she was staying at a hotel in Gilbert PD.
She was staying at a hotel. I did see her at one hotel, but that wasn't the same hotel. That's what I'm trying to remember. I think it was like a Marriott. I remember she said something like a Marriott something. Courtyard, maybe?
Okay, Courtyard by Marriott.
Does that sound right? I'm trying to remember. So
Hyatt?
Yeah. No, I don't remember. I'm not good with hotel names or car names. Don't ask me names of my own car hardly. That's not my thing. So I remember she wanted to move the truck. She moved it. I remember she dropped it off. She drove it and dropped it off at this place. And it was right off the highway. It's like 202. It was right by the temple, you know, like that 202.
Okay. The new temple in Gilbert?
Yeah,
okay.
It was near that location.
Do you know who helped her with that?
Well, I was with her
Oh,
in
you
the car.
with her?
I was with her in her car.
So you followed her in the car?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just me and her.
Okay, and
I
was
can't
that
remember if it was her
after?
car or my car. I can't. That's what I'm trying to remember. Is like what car we were driving.
Is it before or after you went to Gilbert PD?
I think it was before. I think it was before. Whenever. Well, because let me just. Okay, it was before. This is how I got to remember events. So what happens? So anyway, she parks it there. I don't hear from her. She takes JJ to school, drops him off. Charles steals her purse. Anyway, I text her the next morning, something about how you doing or where are you, what, something. I don't remember what I said. And he has her phone.
Yes.
And he said something like, hey, come to the house, bring the truck. I'm like, what? And then he said something like, the truck's over at your husband's office. I'm thinking, this doesn't sound right. It's not. And I'm thinking, she lost her Fruit Loops or what? I'm not sure at this point. And it's something about getting the keys. I'm like, I don't have the keys. And then he doesn't know that. So he's trying to get me to help him find his truck. And I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, I ended up going over there and her car's not there. And I come in and two guys are like doing the locks because he busted the door down. And he goes, hi, Melanie. I'm like, hi, Charles. And I'm like, where's Lori? She's not here, is she? No, she's not here. I'm like, oh, man. And so she's like, hey, come here. I got to talk to you. And I was like, man, it was so uncomfortable. Oh, my gosh. Now I look back, I'm like, oh, my heart breaks for Charles. He was so caring and I'm so worried about her. She's lost her. She thinks she's some translated being that's married to Moroni, and she thinks I'm this Ted, he called Ted Schneider guy, and I'm like,
So he referred to it as Ted?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm like this. Oh, this is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh man, I don't know what to say. Oh man, it was bad. It was
Did you
so
tell
bad.
him about the truck, or had you guys not removed it? Or
I don't even know if we talked about the truck.
Okay.
He got his truck back, but I'm trying to remember now. You know
It
what?
would have been after the Gilbert visit. is my
Probably.
guess.
So this was neat. This was really interesting. So anyway, I gave him a hug goodbye, and I didn't say much. I was dumbfounded pretty much. Anyway, so I leave, and I'm driving down the street. I called Chad because I knew that she was connected to it. I was like, "Do you know where Lori is?" He's like, "I don't know." He acted like he was clueless. Like he thought that I didn't know anything because she wasn't supposed to tell me anything.
Oh.
Yeah. This was all supposed to be between her and him, but luckily she spilled it so I can share it in the future to everybody.
Right.
But she was not one that could keep a secret, I think. And anyway, so he was like, "I don't know," and he was playing clueless. And anyway, so I get this random call, and I'm like, "Who the heck's this?" So she got another phone, I guess, and I just guessed it could have been her. And she goes, "Oh yeah, Charles took my purse, he stole it, da da da." I said, "Hold on, Jason Mal is parked like right in front of me by the park." I stopped by the park on the exit out. And I'm like, maybe this is some God intervention thing. I don't know why, he's an ex-police guy, so
Yeah, I
he's
know.
sitting there, being a good officer, texting on the side of the road. I was like, that's so him. And so I giggle at that, right? And so I was like, "Jason, like, this just happened." He goes, "Well, go to the police. You need to go to the police, and you need to report that her keys are stolen." I'm like, okay. So then I tell her, I was like, "I think we should go to the police." And she's like, "Yeah, I think that's a good idea." So anyway, Charles.
I go back and forth in regards to Melanie Gibb. In a lot of ways, I am so grateful that she broke and came forward and started blabbing her mouth to her friends about the zombies and what she thought. Because once that zombie email that I got first, and then it went on Reddit the next day, I should have gone on live stream, but I didn't know what I was doing at the time when I started my Left Undone channel, FYI. But anyway, I got that zombie email from somebody that was using a fake name. I know who he is now. And it was everything Melanie had said that her friends took notes for. But I go back and forth with Melly, because if she wouldn't have done that, I think it would have taken a little bit longer to figure out what was going on, because there's a lot of clues in that zombie email, as I call it. And also the fact that she sits here and she giggles and says, "I giggle at that, blah, blah, blah." And we're literally talking about Charles Vallow's murder. And she's talking about it like we're talking about some memory from the last vacation. It's like, what? Of course, going, "Oh, I don't believe that. I don't believe this." But the fact that she came forward, and she was a big witness in this case, especially with that recording that she did when she called Lori and Chad when they were in Hawaii. And there were a lot of clues in that. Yay. But for the most part, it's like she's missing something upstairs, in my opinion, that says, look what you're talking about right now. This isn't an afternoon chat over tea with your friends. This is police officers trying to get to the bottom of a murder of Lori's husband, Charles. Okay, that's my little Melanie rant.
I've been in there before, but we didn't know it until after we got there. And then
Did you mention the truck thing to Jason too?
I don't remember. Probably not. I don't remember.
Could you have? I only asked that because I've talked to him too. So.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I have to guess.
Okay.
It's a yes or a no. I don't know.
I don't know is also an acceptable answer, right?
I don't know. I don't remember every conversation I've had about this whole crazy story. Unfortunately, I don't have that great of a recall. I wish I did. Yeah, so does that answer your questions?
Yes.
Okay. Did that fill in some blanks?
It corroborates information. How's that?
Okay. I know. All truth will come together if it's true.
So let me get this right. So you took Lori to pick up the truck at the airport. And Lori picked up the truck. Is that true?
Oh, I didn't go to the airport. That was Alex.
Alex went to the airport.
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah,
Alex.
I did not go to the airport.
Okay, so
yeah.
Alex.
That was Alex. Some people in the media got that confused
Okay.
too. I was like, oh, I
So
never
Alex
said I
took
went
Lori
there.
to the airport to pick up Charles' truck.
Yeah, and then they
They
put it
dropped it
somewhere.
off at a hotel.
Yeah, it could have
And
been.
then you
yeah.
said that clothes were taken, one box to Goodwill and one to the behind the food storage.
Yeah, it was before Charles came back because I remember he was out of town. So
Okay.
yeah, he was out of town.
And you asked her specifically about the Goodwill, why are you doing that? And she said because the Lord told
Well,
her.
yeah, I was like, why are you telling him all these, I'm trying to remember if she told me how much she told him. I was like, why are you taking all his clothes? That's like, I thought that was really out of control. And so I was like, why? I think I said something like, isn't this a bit extreme? I think that's probably more accurate what I was saying. Isn't this a bit extreme? And she's like, no. So that was before Charles got back.
Okay.
Do you remember her behavior at the Gilbert Police Department when she was telling the officer about getting rid of his clothes?
I just remember she was pretty upbeat the whole time. She was kind of a happy, just acting like, yeah. And I'm sure that you remember seeing that video coverage probably. I didn't even watch it. I couldn't go back and watch it. I was like, oh.
Oh, I've watched it.
I couldn't even watch it because I was like partially under her, and I was like, I don't want to see myself in that video. I'm tired of seeing myself on TV.
So tell me about Julie Clement.
Yeah.
Are you friends with her?
Not anymore. And I was a little bit friends with her. It was Suleiman that was friends with her.
Yeah,
and Suleiman and her.
Okay.
And they did energy work. That's how they knew each other.
Gotcha.
Energy work. We're going to have to get into that one too. And we'll go into this stuff between these women and their energy work and Julie Rowe and all of that. We'll get there. But I'm going to end this right now because there's still another hour and we're 1 hour into the podcast right now. So for now, we're going to end and I will have another episode for you next week, which will be season 4, episode 3. And we'll dig into what Julie Clement has to say via Melanie Gibb's info, plus a whole lot more. The interview will continue. But again, I appreciate you all, and I thank you so much for joining me here at Afterglow, Unveiling the Idaho Cult. Remember, I'm a one-woman show. If you have any inclination to support the show, please do. You can leave a small donation, or a large, but a small, any donation is just fine. Literally, nothing's too small to help me keep the show going and keep it supported for all the software and everything that I need to use to do my editing and this and that. Okay. But again, my name is Kathy Brooks. I started following this case as a newbie nobody on YouTube. My channel's Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations on YouTube. And I'm leaning more towards the podcast right now because we've had it so organized in chronological order. And I think it's been really good to just play these interviews and all the audio. And we will get more and more into it, including the audio from the trials. And then, of course, don't worry because Lori Vallow is in Arizona and it is 2025 and she is going to go pro se, be her own lawyer, and she's already losing her battle with the stuff she's brought before the judge already. It's kind of funny and I can't wait to get to it on the podcast. Left Undone is my YouTube channel. You can join us over there. Catherine J. Brooks, Beyond the Empty Nest, is my travel blog. I am a Greek American, exploring as much of Greece as possible and working on my dual citizenship. And that one is my baby right now. But, of course, you guys are not to be forgotten. And I have so much invested in this case that I have to get this podcast seen all the way through to the end. Absolutely. And I appreciate you leaving a 5-star review and a comment. That helps so much. When you put in Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, my podcast doesn't even show up. And it is, I guarantee you, people that have listened to it from the beginning have boasted that it is an excellent podcast with more information than any other. So if you are so inclined, give me the 5 stars and a little comment review. All right. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and stay well, and I will be back next week. Bye-bye. Theme music by Dan Lebowitz. Sources for this show are Justin Lum, Fox 10 Phoenix, East Idaho News, Nate Eaton, and Annie Cushing. Thank you. Appreciate you all. Stay safe and stay well. Bye-bye.